There is a moment in life when advice stops sounding wise and starts sounding hollow. It doesn't happen suddenly. It happens quietly after you've followed someone's words, trusted their confidence, and discovered that when things fall apart, they are nowhere near the consequences you now carry. That's when a strange realization settles in. Advice is cheap. Living with the results is not. Almost everyone has advice. Friends, family, mentors, strangers online, motivational speakers, comment sections, podcasts, books. Advice flows endlessly, confidently, loudly. People tell you what to do with your career, your money, your relationships, your time, your life, as if knowing the words is the same as carrying the weight. And yet, if you look closely, many of those who speak the loudest live the quietest truths. They tell you how to be disciplined, but avoid discipline themselves. They tell you how to be patient, but are ruled by impulse. They tell you how to be brave, but have never risked anything real. They tell you how to live, but don't seem to recognize their own life in their advice. That's when the sentence becomes impossible to ignore. Not all advice is worth following, especially from those who don't practice what they preach. We grow up believing advice is guidance, that people who speak confidently must know something we don't, that experience automatically equals wisdom, that elders, leaders, experts, and successful people deserve our trust by default. So we listen. We listen even when the advice doesn't fit us. Even when it feels heavy, even when it contradicts our instincts, because questioning advice feels rude, because rejecting guidance feels arrogant, because we're taught that obedience equals humility and hesitation equals ignorance. But slowly, cracks begin to form. You notice that the person advising you about relationships keeps destroying their own, that the one preaching discipline never shows up on time, that the one warning you about risk has never taken a risk themselves, that the one pushing you to be realistic gave up on their dreams years ago and calls it wisdom now. And you begin to feel something uncomfortable. Confusion mixed with doubt because you followed their advice. And now you're paying for it with your time, your energy, your regret. We live in a world that rewards articulation more than alignment. People who can explain things well are often mistaken for people who live them well. Advice becomes performance. People speak not to help, but to feel relevant. To appear wise. To position themselves above others. They borrow ideas they haven't tested, principles they haven't lived, lessons they've memorized but never embodied. And the world applauds them for it, because advice sounds good. Living well is harder to measure. So advice spreads faster than truth, but advice without practice is dangerous, because it carries authority without accountability. It influences decisions without sharing consequences. It shapes lives without touching the ground, and the listener, the one who follows, is left to deal with the reality. If bad advice is so common, why do we keep listening? Because certainty is comforting. Someone else telling you what to do relieves you of responsibility. It feels safer to follow a path laid out by another than to navigate your own uncertainty. Advice offers clarity in moments when you feel lost, and sometimes we don't want truth, we want reassurance. We want someone to tell us that the easy choice is the right one, that avoiding discomfort is wisdom, that fear is intuition, that settling is maturity, and many advisors are happy to provide exactly that, because it justifies their own choices. Advice often reveals more about the speaker than the listener. The cost isn't always obvious at first. Sometimes it's subtle. You choose stability over growth because someone told you risk was irresponsible. You stay quiet because someone told you patience means silence. You shrink your ambition because someone told you to be realistic. Years pass, and one day you realize your life doesn't feel like yours. Not because you failed, but because you followed advice that wasn't rooted in lived truth. That's when resentment begins. Not loud resentment, quiet resentment. The kind that whispers, I should have listened to myself. The turning point comes when you start asking a different question. Not, is this advice smart? But does this person live what they're telling me? You begin to observe more than you listen. You notice who takes responsibility for their mistakes, who adapts instead of complaining. Who sacrifices comfort for Principles. Who acts consistently even when no one is watching, and you realize something liberating. Credibility is not in words, it's in patterns. Advice starts to lose its magic. Not because you've become cynical, but because you've become discerning. You stop automatically respecting confidence. You stop equating age with wisdom. You stop assuming authority equals understanding. You start valuing alignment. Real advice doesn't rush you. It doesn't demand obedience. It doesn't shame you for questioning. Real advice sounds humble, conditional, aware of context. It often comes from people who say, "This is what worked for me, not what must work for you." People who practice what they preach rarely preach aggressively. They understand complexity. They respect timing. They know that life isn't a formula, and most importantly, they are willing to be judged by their actions. Once you realize this, something shifts internally. You stop collecting advice like currency. You stop outsourcing your judgment. You stop asking everyone what to do. You start listening inward, not impulsively, not emotionally, but attentively. You recognize that your life is the only place where consequences are fully felt, and therefore, your voice deserves weight. This doesn't mean you stop learning from others. It means you stop surrendering your agency. Advice becomes input, not instruction. Not all advice is worth following, especially from those who don't practice what they preach, because words without embodiment are noise. Because guidance without responsibility is manipulation. Because wisdom that isn't lived is unfinished. The most dangerous advice is not wrong advice, it's confident advice from unexamined lives. And the most powerful realization is this: you don't need more advice. You need more alignment. So the next time someone tells you how to live, pause. Look at their life, not their words. Look at their habits, not their opinions. Look at their patterns, not their promises. Ask yourself, would I trade places with them? Would I want their consequences? Would I live the life their advice leads to? And if the answer is no, walk away quietly, because your life deserves guidance rooted in truth, not convenience. Listen to advice, but follow integrity. Learn from others, but trust alignment. Respect words, but believe actions. And remember, the best advice often isn't spoken at all. It's lived.